evening, everyone. My name is Gabrielle, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday, we have the privilege of coming to you to share some pertinent information about money, life, and everything else. And I always say on this show that money encompasses everything, and any topic that really help us understand more who we are as a people and as a community. I want to address those issues. So tonight, our conversation is very important to me because as someone who is bilingual, actually, I think I might be a little trilingual too, because I do understand the third language very well. I would like to address the topic of language justice. So tonight's topic is language justice matters. Now, did you know, I was doing some research, did you know that there are 7,139 spoken languages in the world? 7,139. So if you reside in this part of the world here, United States or Canada or any country close to the Western atmosphere, you will be able to have an opportunity and the privilege to meet someone who's from another country because we are what we call a melting pot. How do you interact with those people? How do you show respect? And how do you give yourself an opportunity to learn from those encounters? So tonight, we're going to be discussing that. Without further ado, I would like to welcome my guests who are on the show tonight. I have two great friends. One of them been on the show before, and one is new. And I reach out to her because of the fact that I know she's huge with language justice, and I wanted her to be part of this conversation. So why don't I give Nikita Lamour an opportunity to introduce herself quickly, and then Perpetuity Robert can go ahead and introduce herself, and then we'll dive into this important conversation. Language justice matters. Nikita, you go first.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Gabrielle. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here. I know we've known each other for a long time, but I watch your show, so it's my first time here. And I'm happy to talk about language access from an educator's perspective and somebody who's worked in the field of interpreting and translating. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Nikita. And you, Perpetuity? Why you decided to be part of the show tonight?
Yes. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. That's not my first time being in the show. My name is Perpetuity Robert. I'm a naturopath and I help people heal themselves naturally. And today is a really great subject. We're going to see how language is really important when we talk about health, especially when you go to the clinic. Parler langue ou bien comprendre ou bien moun nan capable dire ça senti dans langue parle. So
yeah, yes. I'm glad. Thank you, Perpetuity. Thank you again for coming. I know we've been having really great conversation offline, and it's so important. Just like we said, individual interaction. That how important it is to show respect and also open yourself up to an opportunity to learn. But also, if you're a business or an organization, you have a mandate. You have a responsibility to make the effort, a concerted effort to provide language access to your employees, to your clients, as well as anybody who comes to your business. Because when you do that, you really give people, folks an opportunity to feel empowered, and also not only empowered economically, but socially and professionally. So that's why, to me, language justice matters. So you two ladies are bilingual. Like I said, I speak multiple languages. Lucky I. And I know you two speak multiple languages. But we know in our culture, right, some languages are viewed as being superior than others. How do you feel about that? And again, you can share how many languages you speak and how has that empowered you?
Yeah, I speak 3 languages fluently: English, French, and my mother tongue, which is Creole. So I think it's opening up a world for me and being able to share my knowledge with different different people, and also being able to, you feel that you can serve more people that speak different languages. And I do understand a little bit of Spanish because in Haiti, you have to learn Spanish and then it's close to French. So it makes you more easier to communicate with other people, especially me being in a in the health field, and sometimes people will come to me just because they know I understand the Creole, I know the culture very well, I can understand it, and especially I'm close to what kind of food they are eating. So it's open opportunities, and I can share with people that are here in Canada, the French speaking Canada, they speak both two languages, French and in English, and then some part of Europe. So languages is really a blessing. And I think, in fact, everybody should learn more than one language. What do you think?
I know. Only in certain countries, they only speak one, but you go to Europe and South America, different places, folks either have like an indigenous language as well as the mainstream language. What about you, Nikita? I know you're an educator. You unmute Nikita, so unmute yourself. You are an educator. You have taken classes with you, so I know you speak multiple languages. So we wanted to address the fact that how do you feel about some cultures where they feel like certain languages are more superior than others? How do you feel about that? And also, how has being able to speak multiple languages empowered you?
Well, I studied my field. I studied as a teacher. So I taught in bilingual programs. So I speak 2 or 3 languages also. I speak Creole, French, and I understand Spanish and Portuguese. So I think we have in other countries, in other developed countries, in most countries, to be an educated person, you have to speak in other languages. Mm-hmm. So you have to. So it's part of life. You do have to know another language. So I studied as a teacher. So as a teacher teaching immigrant children. So even though you're a classroom teacher, they will call you, they will call you to interpret, or they will show you a piece of paper to translate for them. So when I taught ESL, they even called me for Asians. I don't speak Chinese. So like when people speak like, broken, what we call broken English, so they are learning, they are in the early stage of learning the language. So their sentences are not quite complete. So they expect you to understand like a no learner, a no English learner. So that came from as a teacher. So that translation, so I've been translating as a teacher. But when I wasn't working for many years, I didn't work as a teacher. So that backup I had as an interpreter, so that helped too. So I was in the hospital, so I did mostly court interpreting, legal interpreting. So I'm coming from 2 phases, and I had training too. I remember I took the training when my kids were little, so I took the year off. And while I took the year off, I learned the skills of interpreting. So I took an entire year of interpreting and translating, but you keep on, holding your skills, you keep on learning. So you have to be a lifelong learner. People think because you speak 2 languages or you speak multiple languages, you can translate or interpret. No, you have to keep at it. So it's a profession, it's a field in and of itself.
Correct. I think because the topic for tonight is language justice matters. And when I think of justice, I think of there's housing justice, racial justice, so many different types of ways to view justice. But the idea of language justice. So I know in looking at that definition, it says your ability to express yourself in a language that you're most comfortable. Language justice is very evolving framework based on the notion of respecting every individual's fundamental language rights to be able to communicate, understand, and be understood in the language in which they prefer and feel most articulate and powerful. Because language is very powerful. When you are in an environment, when you are able to articulate and express yourself and do it clearly without apprehension, it's a very important. I don't know if you noticed, like I posted something online and it's one of the actresses from Modern Family saying like, do you know how smart I am in Spanish? Of course you don't. Because going back to one of the questions that I mentioned, I had asked earlier, questions like some people have been taught, unfortunately, that certain languages are superior than others. So in your opinion, based on your frame of reference and also experience, what do you think language justice means to you? Fabrizi?
I think language justice, like you said, is really the way that you can express yourself in the language that you feel more comfortable. It's it's make such a difference. It make you more powerful. It make you feel that you are more smarter, because sometimes you're looking for words to express yourself, and there is some emotion that you are able to express only in your mother tongue, at least for me, in your mother tongue, and especially joy, or sometimes sadness. So it's really, really important. And you said something about language as a feeling superior and inferior. So unfortunately, I can say that we, Haitian background, we do think sometimes that express yourself in Creole do feel less superior. Let me tell you, a lot of immigrants coming here, especially myself, right in the beginning, we wanted our children to speak French and English, and we did not really pay much attention to Creole. At least I was trying to do it during the weekend, the three languages. And there was people when I immigrate here, is like, what? Well, speaking Creole to know he's gonna have so much trouble at school because the Creole is so close to the French. He will not be able to speak French properly. And unfortunately, I listened to those advice. And I have my second child that is have language communication problem, and I started, because of him not using the Creole, trying to speak the French or the English. And when we go to the doctor, psychiatrist, he say, what language do you speak to your children? Your child? I said, we speak English and French. He said, what is your mother tongue? I said, Creole. He said, ma'am, that's the really big mistake. Why? Because what is the language that you and the husband speak at home? I said, we speak Creole. See, and you speak Creole together, and there is your child there, not understand a clue of what you are saying. You address your child to another language. So that diminishes ability to communicate properly. Doesn't matter what other language and environment, the school, the daycare that he's going in. What is most important is what's going on in the house. So his brain, his ability to communicate, understand, develop better, because he see the two language, the two people that he has been raised for, that he is there most of the time we're speaking the language. So unfortunately, that I don't know if that's help other people to understand how important it is to express yourself in your language, in your mother tongue, in the language that you're mostly more comfortable.
How important it is to make a concerted effort to do it in business in different places. Like, j'aime dire, on parle créole très bien, parce que m'de fait en Haïti, et m'toujour di moun kon sa, m'pa jamais gen problème pour m'parler langue, parce que depuis l'âme de petit monde, parents m'te éduqué moi qui est important c'est pour être haïtienne. Je suis très fière. M'parler un peu français aussi, parce que m'de apprendre en Haïti. C'est réellement important pour moun yo connaît que nous faisons ça en anglais. Ça passe ça parce que moun qui supporte nous dans show ça, c'est mostly English speakers. The people pour des années, Gabriel René, depuis en 2006, m'a fait show en créole, m'a fait show dans domaine moi qui finance en créole. Et many times, people qui dans la communauté nous qui parlent créole, pas jamais supporté. Ça fait ça parce que yo pas de valeur dans cette affaire. So again, that's why we do the show in English, because we know that the people who've been supporting us, people who call us and say, great job, you're doing a great job, keep doing it, they speak English. And the folks who are willing to come to support us, of course, today we have 2 Haitian speakers, but the folks that I can pick up the phone and call and say, can you please help me be part of this? They are mostly English speakers. Or let me go back to you, Nikita, because I know you're an educator. I came to this country as a youngster, went to high school, college, and all my college career I've done in English. So sometimes it's very difficult for me to, even when I take the time, like for many years when I was on Telediaspora and all the other radio stations, I had to take extra time to translate, to interpret all the stuff that I learned in English, in Creole, so that I could present it to my community. And of course, you know, when you don't get encouraged, it gets very discouraging. So how important it is for parents, going back again to language justice in terms of school, how do you as a teacher encourage your students, or been able to encourage your students to really hone and learn another language, because you want them to know that it's important, it's empowering to speak another language?
Well, if the parents pick another language, so it's very important to teach it to the child because the schools are not going to teach the language. So it's good to grow up, like we do, that helps us to grow up, learning 2 or 3 languages. So, and learning languages is very innate for children. So a child can learn 2 or 3 languages. So, if a child has an issue, language is not a factor. So the child, it's like natural, it's like you drink water. So you can, it's normal, it's part of life to know to speak languages. So the child has an issue, has problems, so it's not gonna have problems with learning language. So what I say and what I do, I speak Creole with my kids, and now they are teaching their kids how to speak Creole. They are talking Creole with their kids. So which is hard because my daughter is by herself, in Indiana. So it would be nice, if she has other friends speaking Creole with her, and then they will see it. But anyway, so she gets the video, she gets YouTube. So she's trying. So my grandson understands, but he's poor. He cannot speak, but he understands. Yeah. I think can we add also when we talk about language justice, it's a law also, like when you go to a hospital, when you go to
Actually, that's the question I was gonna ask. That's the question I was gonna ask. What are some of the failures and obstacles that we face when we do not get access to language justice? So you can talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, it's a law. It's the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So it requires any recipient. So if you receive federal financial assistance, so you have to take the reasonable steps to provide interpreting or translation to non-English speakers. So if schools, they do receive federal money, hospitals, so whoever receives federal grants, they have to provide interpreting and translating. So it's the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So it's not, it doesn't come from up the air. So they have to, it's the law.
Because there was a time, Lakita, where that was not available. And we know that we all know of family members who are older who came to this country who do not speak the language. Parents nou qui pa parle anglais ou parents nou qui pa parle créole, qui pa parle anglais, yo vini nan pays, yo parle l'hôpital, yo parle l'encote, yo parle dans tout environnement professionnel, en plus tout y a baissé langue anglais, y a baissé comprendre. So parents who don't speak the language, like I know my friends who are Asian, their parents don't speak English, they speak Mandarin or Cantonese. I have friends who are Spanish. From South America, their parents speak Spanish, and of course our Haitian community where parents only speak Creole. Now here are these people going to the hospital for their medical checkup. They don't have a Haitian doctor and they're trying to communicate with a doctor. Or they are at the courthouse because sometimes you have a legal matter that you need to settle. Or you are maybe in a business, doing a financial transaction like a mortgage or loan or student loans. How important it is for you to forget the fact that, some of the apprehension about, I don't speak. Well, let me give you an example. I have a family member who's unfortunately no longer with us. This person spoke very broken English, very limited English that you can handle at the job, right? You work with your coworkers, you could speak a little bit, okay, they understood you. But at the end of the day, this person will go to the hospital and try to say yes, yes, yes to everything the doctor is saying. So how important it is, Beverly, especially for you in medical field, that people access language justice and they say to the healthcare provider, I need someone to help me because English is not my first language. And the fact that it doesn't mean that you are unintelligent. It just means that you want to be understood in the language that you're most comfortable in. Please talk about that.
Guys, that can be a situation of life or death because, for example, in a Haitian said, my stomach is hurting. He's not talking about that. He's just talking about something else. You understand what I mean? So the person can die, and especially saying yes to everything. You can't have an allergy or something and say that no, I don't have it, or yes, I don't have the allergy. So he can die from an allergy, from giving a medication that he's not supposed to give. So that's what it is really important, I think, in the medical field, in the hospital, in every health, it should have somebody that can understand, or at least having something that can translate, because I went to Dominican Republic and then the guys have his phone with his Google translation and listen and translate it and to verify with me if this is what I meant. So I think it's really important to do that, because, and also sometimes the person is embarrassed, you know, he can be embarrassed to express himself and say, yeah. And, you know, I've met even someone, a person that did not want to go actually to the public because he felt uncomfortable to express himself properly in the French language. He said, I hate when people are talking, especially when they are speaking, because in Canada they have an accent and speaking fast and I don't understand it and I'm there saying, yeah. So that can be really, really a problem.
Yeah, you just mentioned that, you know, you could use Google Translation, right, or translator, or you could perhaps get a friend. But going back again to something you said, Nikita, like you learned how to be an interpreter, right? And especially if you're going to be a legal one or a medical one, there are certain terminologies, or a financial one, there are certain terminologies that they're not common terminologies that everybody is using. How important it is for you as someone who's looking for those services to ask for a professional to help you, and not be embarrassed by it. It does not mean you're not smart, because guess what? Going back again to what Sophia said, do you know how smart I am in Spanish? You could say the same thing. Do you know how smart I am in Creole? Do you know how smart I am in Portuguese? Do you know how smart I am in Chinese? But if you do not know English and you live in the United States of America, how important it is for you to ask for support, language justice support, when you are in those professional settings.
Well, yeah, it's very important to have a professionally trained interpreter or translator, because what happens, there are times that parents will bring their children, and it's not fair to the parents' self-esteem to have a child. You know, you bring the child to an office or to the hospital to interpret or translate for you. So that's illegal. So it's important to have a neutral professional interpreter. So don't bring a child, even friends, don't bring a friend. So the place that receives the grant, the money, so they have to ascertain that they have a professional interpreter to assist you. So it's not good to have the child. We've seen that. So come with me. You know, so that's too much of a burden also for the child. So if you're of a doctor's office, so there are things you don't want the child to know, and the terminologies, you know, you don't know it. I mean, the child doesn't know it. The non-professional doesn't know the terminology. So we're always learning. You know, if you are, you know, into a medical field, so you're always learning, you know, about the medical field. So I was in the legal, or I'm in the legal field, so I'm always taking workshops, taking seminars, you know, taking law, you know, take a law class. So you have to know the subject that you are translating or interpreting. So it's very important to have a professional to.
I will even think not only medical and legal, but a financial transaction. You buying a house, or you hiring a real estate agent, you doing a mortgage, you buying stock, bonds, and you name it. It's so important. That's why, again, we talk about community matters, and talk about education matters, and talk about culture matters. It's so important that we encourage youngsters in our community not only to speak our language, but also to pursue those fields, because they will be able to help you if you believe. You gotta believe. They will be able to help you maximize, empower yourself economically, socially, and financially, if you give them an opportunity not only to learn the language, but also an opportunity to be educated. So what do you think, Pravati, we're talking about it, what do you think some of the reasons why language justice is not a priority in mainstream America or Canada? Like, you know, like, so I know you mentioned it's the law. Do you think like there are some underlying reason why, going back to your friend saying like, I hate to be in an environment, because again, he's not being comfortable. He's not feeling comfortable. Why do you think it's so difficult for newcomers or folks who do speak another language to feel comfortable in society?
because they can find, you can have a superiority complex or an inferiority complex, you know, whether they feel the other one, oh, because you speak that such language, you feel that you're more superior and I feel more inferior than you. And sometimes they can even think there is systematic racism against them too, right? When they go to a place and they don't speak their language and they are not understood. And sometimes they can even think is about white supremacy, because, you know, I have met that things too, when people think, you know, that's being speaking Creole, or they don't want them to know that they have an accent, or they don't speak the language because they don't want to know that they are from such and such background, Haitian, for example. I say Haitian because I'm from the Haitian community. And I think that is so sad.
It is sad. This is how I combat this, okay? Ever since I first came here in high school and beyond college and businesses, I am the first one to speak when I go into a room. The reason for that is because I want you to become very familiar with my voice and my accent. So how have you been able, why do you think, because again, that inferiority complex, feeling like, you know, I'm lesser than, and somebody else who has the English as a primary language, whether they were born here or whatever, you know, they're superior to you. You know, just, you know, in our culture, right? And I'm sure other cultures the same, colonialism. Can you talk a little bit about that, Nikita? Do you think, like in Haiti, that's why some folks who go to a supermarket or go to yale non bank, même si c'est en créole pour peuple moi qu'attendez, ou aller non banque, ou aller non côté professionnel, moun nan paraît devant, li pa konnen si madame nan kon parler français ou nad, li paraît li vin parler français avec. Parce que li senti, li supérieur, li besoin montrer mon nan. Parfois, m'a dit toutefois, mais parfois c'est pour raison ça. Et automatiquement, moun nan qui pa parler anglais, qui pa parler français, senti li inférieur ou même. Qui importe aussi bien pour capable projeter, pour qu'on reconnaître que moun sa kap fait activité ça, parce que le pas ça crée le language justice as a framework that he or she is working with, and also too parce que moun sa pas comprendre comment lui-même tout li impacté by the idea of colonialism.
Yeah, so it's like what the mental social, no, it's a social issue. It's, even though, you know, we're not in chain, but mentally that's the hardest part, that's difficult to free. So it's and also it's like, I think it's the attitude vis-a-vis the person who speaks Creole. So the person who speaks Creole, you know, is poor. So if you speak French, that means you have, you know, you are from a high social level, you're able to go to school. So it's not really the language. So it's the attitude vis-a-vis the language, vis-a-vis the people who speak the language.
Yeah.
So it's something that we have to transcend. So we do have to work on it and transcend that, what we've inherited, you know, from slavery. Yeah. It's a work in progress. We are always trying. And I don't care, you know, I said at my age, at this point of my life, so if I speak 2 or 3 languages, no, you have an issue with it, that's your issue, that's not mine. So I do speak my mind.
I think it's changing. It is changing with a new generation, as you probably see, Gabriel. A lot of the entrepreneurs in the US, even in Canada, trying to do their best to sell their products and do those things in Creole. That's really changing. That's, we are going back. We are like, how do we say that? Expressing ourselves. We are taking place, because I think language there is an esteem and a self-esteem when you speak your language, because you can express yourself. You can express the emotion that you have. You can express everything that get inside, you know. Sometimes, and it is tough, it's hard when you do not speak the language and you're trying to teach your children properly, and because you are borrowing some words, especially if you're immigrant to a country, you haven't go to school in that language.
Yeah, the video said, do you know how hard it is for me to have to translate everything in my head before I say it? It's very hard, you know. But again, the idea of language justice is an evolving framework. That's the definition. It's evolving. You know, the notion of respecting, you know, individual fundamental language rights, and to just be able to communicate and understand and be understood. So it's evolving, and that's why we want to have that conversation, because we know that there are folks who are watching, who are going to be watching, and they're going to say, I had never heard of the idea of language justice, because I know I've talked to my circle and they're like, language justice, never heard of it. And also, how can I make a difference? So going back again to children, because if I do believe that it starts from, cradle, the earlier you get them thinking differently, the better it'll be for our society. So I remember when I was in high school, again, this Asian, she was Chinese, and her parents would come to the school, and every time they would come, she'll be like super embarrassed. And the same could be said about our culture, folks in the Haitian culture, because her parents didn't speak English, and the embarrassment. Do you think that parents have to make an effort to not only, like you mentioned, like educate their kids in their own native, like teach them their own language, and also talk to them about the culture and tell them how important it is to speak another language? Do you think that's an effort that parents have to make?
Yes, let me scream. Yes, I think, like I told you my story. My first one speak a language properly, but my second one, I was so afraid because we have a communication problem. But it is such a plus. Why I say that is because not only you're able to communicate better with that children, I see there is more, can I say, love relationship is stronger because you understand each other. Since they are a child, you teach them your own language. They can understand your feeling, because there is, for example, you can say, okay, the child will understand what's the difference. And we are speaking it when Haitian are speaking, sometimes those that does not understand the language, they feel that you are fighting because of the way that we express ourselves with emotion. Yes, it's really important. It's bring this up the self-esteem of the child. And the child, let me tell you, when they go to secondary and high school, they are so proud. They are talking with their peers with a language that the teacher or the student doesn't understand. Yes, we should all do that.
Not only that, I have a friend of mine who's married to an Asian gentleman, and her kids are learning Mandarin. They're learning Vietnamese because one of the family members from Vietnam. They're learning Creole, and then also they're learning English. So 4 languages. These kids are like 2, 3, 4, and they're already able to understand. And one of them said, "Mom, you don't understand Chinese, right? Or Mandarin, because mom doesn't understand the language, but because grandma has taught him, he understands it." And he's very proud of that. And I think they'll do so much better off in school because of that. Now, let's talk about corporate America. I know there are environments. We talked about how important it is to have services available in the language most comfortable for someone. But what about if you are in a corporation or business, and you notice that most of your clients or people who are working for you are from a different culture? What can you do? Is there anything that you can do to make it more comfortable and really champion language justice? What do you think, Nikita?
I know business. I mean, I have got different types of interpreting and translating. There's a legal, we spoke about that. Medical, we spoke about that. Business, it's one area that needs, interpreters. You mentioned real estate. So it's one of it. There's conference. If you go to a conference, they should have interpreters too. The conferences. And there's one part we didn't talk about, the sign language. That's one language I like to learn. American sign language. So
the love. Everybody knows the love.
Yeah.
So how awesome is it? I think the clap is like this, right? You clap. But my question, Nikita, was if you have a business and you notice that you have multiple clients and even employees who speak another language. I mean, I know of an organization where the majority of the people speak English, but a large number of the employees are also Spanish speakers. Sometimes they run the meetings in Spanish. So instead of them having to hear the interpretation in English, we get to hear the interpretation in English. Because do you think that's something that will be very progressive and show that you really care about language justice and making everybody feel welcome?
Of course, yes. Of course, you have, there are those machines, the interpreters equipment, there are equipment that you put in your, we're not doing that now, but there's an equipment that you use so everybody can hear. And also Zoom, now with everything since 2020,
Correct.
a lot of meetings have been in Zoom. So Zoom have, they have functions where you can interpret. People put their headsets and they click on the globe, they click on what language they want to hear. So now with technology, I mean, you can have, your language is accessible to everybody now.
Yeah. And it's a lot different when you are the primary language is English, for example, and you get to be in a meeting where Spanish is spoken, and then you get to hear the interpretation in English. Because why should it be all the time that the Spanish people are being subject to the interpretation and the English speakers are always at the superior end of things? So I think, when we want to make a concerted effort to welcome and be inclusive, to me, language justice is a really strong point when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And companies talk about diversity and inclusion all the time, and yet they don't really focus on every areas of diversity and inclusion that could really impact and making somebody feel welcome, making somebody feel like they're part of the organization and they're being taught about. And other ways that I think you can definitely, offer language classes, free classes to your employees so that they can learn another language. Again, going back to what we said, in America, many Americans only speak one. And part of it is because it was never offered to them. I was talking to one of my friends who's from here, a white lady. She's like, yeah, never, in high school, we took a class or two, but really never made an effort to learn it because it was never encouraged. So even for you, one white American or an American, you can encourage your kids to learn another language because you can open a whole new world to them. And it doesn't have to be just a language where they can make money. It's good to have a language like a Spanish. If you're a Spanish speaker, you can make you can make a great living by being able to speak that language, and French and the primary language, the top 10 languages. English is number one, of course. If you speak English, you are really in a great position to really have a great life financially, economically. But at the end of the day, there are other languages that you can learn to just be part of a community. Any last word? Because to me, this topic is very relevant because I think it can impact your financial bottom line and it can also impact your social bottom line. And that's why on this show, we want to impact those bottom lines, your financial and social bottom line. So what do you ladies have any last word that you'd like to share before we say goodbye?
I would say, whenever you go to a place, you need services and you don't speak English, so you have to ask for an interpreter. And also, you tend to see there's an attitude too. Like my grandparents, spoke Italian, so they had no interpreters, they had no bilingual program, they have none of that, none of this. So this is a global world. So even if you don't work as a translator or an interpreter, so speaking another language opens your eye, opens your horizon to the global world that we are living in. So we have the legal part and we have the world, the global era that we are living in. So forget about, your parents didn't have any interpreter, but this is the global world. So to be part of the global world, it's learning and knowing another language.
Correct. What about you?
Yeah, I think as an immigrant, we have to show first that we valued our languages. In order for the corporation or the hospital to give us language justice, we have to first show that is important, that our language is important. Not only we speak it, but we pass it to our children, that the other did not see that it is important.
Yeah. So this show tonight is not about, you come to this country and say, oh, I'm not going to learn English. I'm not going to learn anything else because I want to have language justice. Everywhere I go, I'll get interpretation. That's not what we're trying to say. What we're trying to convey is that if you are someone who's not going to have the opportunity to learn because you came here older or learn as quickly as a child, it's very important that you still get access to speak, to understand and be understood. And so I'm encouraging businesses and I'm encouraging individuals to think bigger, think of it as, when you know better, you do better. Encouraging language justice in your home, encourage it in your workplace, and encouraging it in the community at large, society at large. Our primary objective of this show is always to help you think and grow in a different way. So I would encourage you to do what's best, do what's best and encourage other people to learn a new language, especially value your own. parler créole, si m'te gen ti moun yo t'a parler créole, pas gen affaire ti moun Gabriel pas parler créole et même ti moun qui pas ti moun moins qui dans environnement même toujours essayer parler créole avec eux parce que me connais l'important pour yo comprendre moins. C'est ou même si vous parlez créole, fait ti moun ou parler créole, ou parler français, fait ti moun parler, ou parler espagnol, fait ou parler espagnol. Ou parler Chinese, Asian, Mandarin ou Cantonese, fait ou parler because les ou parlent l'autre langue là pour un monde pour yo que yo pas jamais bien si yo pas parler langue là. You know, I believe language help you become richer. We talk about money encompasses everything. How much richer would you be if you understood the Haitian culture? I know I'm rich because of it. So thank you so much for your time tonight because language justice matters. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to have a great conversation. And yeah, tag, share, make a comment. Let your friends know that we are here. We are here for them and we are here for you. Thank you. Have a blessed night.